After my first love fell from the building, my stepbrother Ethan hated me for 10 years. Even when I later used underhanded tactics to completely possess him, he never truly forgave me. Until I stormed off abroad and encountered riots. Ethan still shielded me without hesitation, dying from a gunshot wound. His last words in my arms were, "I spoiled you too much. I regret becoming your brother." Everyone called me insane. Me, who ruined Ethan, the man known for his integrity and self-discipline. So I knelt on stone steps for 50 years, begging for a chance to start over. This time, I'll let him go. Just let him live peacefully. Emily, aren't you disgusted reading your own writing? You actually, the achingly familiar voice made me open my eyes to see Ethan holding my diary. His face crimson with rage. Those pages overflowed with my desire for Ethan. Yet instead of shame, relief flooded me as tears fell. I'd truly been reborn, back to when Ethan first discovered my forbidden feelings during our initial fight. Seeing my vibrant brother alive made my body tremble uncontrollably. He was alive. Ethan noticed my strange reaction. His anger having burn all this. He pointed at the floor. Last life. I'd gone hysterical at these words, grabbing his collar to kiss him. Horrified, Ethan had fled and distanced himself, while my obsession exploded into hatred for Grace, who stole him, triggering later tragedies. This time, I wiped tears and lifted the diary-filled box. Okay. I'll burn them. These journals held 15 years of memories. Our mothers had been best friends. Mine married an abusive alcoholic, dead by my 5th birthday. His drunken father died in a ditch while turning himself in. Aunt Sophia adopted me, then passed when Ethan and I started middle school. The mansion emptied, leaving just us and few staff. Ethan was barely months older. I became the troublemaker to his responsible act. Ever since we were kids, Ethan was always the one cleaning up my messes. Aunt Sophia was constantly busy with work, and the household staff often took days off. When I had gastritis, Ethan stayed by my side all night as I received 4 fluids. Whenever I got into fights, he'd back me up. During thunderstorms, he'd drag his pillows and blankets to squeeze into my bed. Even when Grace fell to her death because of me, and Ethan hated me to the core, he still shielded me without hesitation when riots broke out. My brother was perfect in every way, except his love for me was familial, while mine carried the weight of unspoken guilt. In our past life, when Mary learned of Ethan's death, she sobbed uncontrollably. Robert pointed at my face, shouting, "Emily, you're a lunatic. A cursed jinx determined to destroy everyone around you." I remembered Ethan's final words to me, "I spoiled you rotten. I regret ever becoming your brother." He regretted it. So did I. The temple in the northern part of town was said to grant miracles. I begged year after year on blood-stained steps, forehead calloused from kowtows, praying Ethan would never meet me in our next life. From raven-haired youth to white-templed elder, I persisted until the abbot finally relented. "Fate cannot be rewritten," he said, pressing a silk pouch into my shriveled hand. "But this will guide you to rebirth." The pouch clenched in my palm upon waking proved it wasn't a dream. This time, I'll protect my brother at all costs. We maintained suffocating silence during the morning car ride to school. Only when exiting did Ethan speak stiffly, "Apologize to Grace today for injuring her last week." He braced for my usual tantrum, but I simply nodded. At lunchtime, I went to fulfill my promise, only to find Grace laughing with Ethan under the golden noon sun, their camaraderie glowing brighter than the afternoon light. The girl giggled and playfully punched the chest of the boy across from her. The next second, her peripheral vision caught sight of me. She immediately hid behind Ethan. Clutching her bandaged hand, Ethan instinctively shielded her. "What brings you here?" came his distant question, already forgetting he'd asked me to come apologize this morning. Not that I could blame Ethan for being guarded. I truly was unhinged. My possessive obsession with Ethan knew no bounds. Handsome and kind, he naturally attracted many admirers. I'd driven every single one away. Interpreting Ethan's silent tolerance as affirmation, I grew convinced he secretly returned my feelings. Like that time in our previous life when I slipped substances into his drink, forcing him across boundaries. Though he resisted my touch, I still heard pleasure in his fractured gasps, willfully ignoring how it was merely biological response beyond his control. Grace held special meaning for him. Even a decade after her death, Ethan never forgave me, suppressing the acid rising in my throat. I took a deep breath and abruptly bowed to Grace. I'm sorry for causing your injury last week, and for publicly humiliating you. Could you possibly forgive me? Grace glanced nervously at Ethan. When he remained silent, she murmured, "It's all right. Don't worry about it. I forgive you." Raising my head, I met Ethan's gaze swirling with indecipherable emotions. Another reason I'd hated Grace in our past life was her frequent closeness to Ryan, the school bully and Ethan's rival. Ryan took malicious delight in tripping Ethan up. I'd been convinced Grace was planted to break Ethan's heart. Hence my constant harassment. Whatever the truth this time, I needed answers. These two souls who missed their chance before deserved their proper path. So I began clinging to Grace, expressing remorse and wanting friendship. She remained wary at first, gradually lowering her guard when seeing my sincerity. Casually I probed, "What do you think of Ethan?" A blush crept up Grace's neck. "Ethan, he's helped me so much. He loves animals, used to feed strays around campus and even got them neutered." His kindness, her voice trailed off affectionately. There it was, mutual affection. Grace truly was remarkable. Despite her family's poverty, she'd earned scholarships through sheer determination, the classic resilient heroine from modest beginnings. With Ethan's looks, top academic ranking, and substantial inheritance from Sophia, they made the picture-perfect couple everyone rooted for. Even knowing this intellectually, bitter bubbles of jealousy still rose in my chest. That evening, Ethan knocked on my door for the first time in ages. He lingered outside, unwilling to enter. Last time he'd barged into my room unannounced. He'd discovered feelings I'd rather keep buried. "I was just researching colleges," I blurted out before he could speak. Since my rebirth, the distance between us kept growing, even without that ill-fated kiss. He couldn't accept being loved by the little sister he'd raised. And I, even without the kiss, couldn't let go. He cleared his throat awkwardly. "Why have you stopped walking home with me?" The question surprised me. "Because I need to get used to life without you," I thought bitterly. Even today, I'd been researching colleges far from Ethan. Him and Grace would naturally attend the same elite school with their stellar grades. Meanwhile, I'd put continents between us if I could. "Grace and I get along well," I lied. "We've been discussing school projects during our walks." The words tasted hollow even to me. Ethan's piercing gaze made my scalp prickle. "Are we bothering you?" I forced out. He flicked my forehead. "Stop overthinking. It's not like that." Running an agitated hand through his hair, he muttered, "Never mind. Making more friends, that's good for you." Later, walking home with Grace, I noted her unusually pensive mood. This time, I'd uncovered the truth behind her mysterious fall in our previous life, the tragedy everyone blamed me for, Ethan included. My history of petty jealousies made perfect scapegoat material. Though I'd never laid hands on her, she'd simply jumped. "Grace," I ventured, "whatever you're going through, I want to help. You can trust me." Her eyes glistened with unshed tears. The confession trembled on her lips when shadows detached themselves from the alleyway. The gang of thugs swung metal pipes ripped from classroom desks. My childhood self-defense training barely kept them at bay. Grace fared worse when a pipe arced toward her skull. I threw myself between them. Darkness, I awoke to searing pain radiating from my skull down my spine. Mud caked my clothes. But the surreal scene before me overrode physical agony. Grace lay naked and motionless beside me. Grace? My trembling fingers scrabbled for the phone. The screen blurred as I dialed frantically. All that mattered now was reaching Ethan. My phone was shattered. Completely unresponsive. Suddenly, a blinding light flashed in my face. I instinctively lowered my head, squinting against the glare. The blare of police sirens mixed with Ethan's furious shouts. A strong force shoved me sideways, my knees hitting concrete steps. Emily! His voice cracked like thunder. I actually believed you changed. You've been waiting all this time to pull this shit. Haven't you? Ethan's eyes burned crimson. It took me 3 full seconds to understand he thought I'd orchestrated this. Ethan. Wait, my protest died as he swept Grace into his arms. Her designer dress pooled like spilt milk against his charcoal suit. You're clutching the damn phone and still lying? He didn't bother looking back. Delete every photo. We're done here. I sat frozen on the cold pavement, watching taillights dissolve into rain. The truth stuck in my throat like broken glass. Darkness swallowed me whole. The nightmare came sharpened with memory that other lifetime when Ethan's palm had cracked across my face. Grace's body on concrete. His devastated whisper, I wish you weren't my sister. Even then, he'd mortgaged his future to keep me out of jail. Sunlight stabbed my eyelids. I jerked upright to find Ethan slumped in my bedroom armchair. Ty Askew. 3 days stubble shadowing his jaw. His bloodshot eyes snapped open. The broken syllable hung between us. Then I was crushed against his chest. His heartbeat thundering through cotton. Grace had woken first. Explained everything, the real attackers. My futile attempt to shield her. Ethan trembled like a plucked power line. I breathed in his bergamot aftershave and waited for the other shoe to drop. He'd apologize. We'd never speak of this. The cracks would keep spreading until one day. Never again. His whisper scorched my temple. I almost lost you. Somewhere downstairs. His phone buzzed incessantly. Investors. Lawyers. The empire he'd built and nearly destroyed for me. I closed my eyes, memorizing the pressure of his arms. This reprieve wouldn't last. Men like Ethan didn't get happy endings, they paid for their sister's sins in installments. The words spilling from his mouth were endless apologies. I'm sorry, Emily. It's all my fault. I wronged you, didn't take care of you, and blamed you without hearing your side. You should hit me. His trembling was unmistakable, the warmth of his body seeping into mine until my own eyes burned with unshed tears. Weeks of pent-up frustration erupted. I buried my tear-streaked face in Ethan's shirt. Snot and all. Bro. This is all my fault. If I hadn't been such a mess before, you'd have believed me. I shook my head desperately, willing him to trust my promises. I'll never make things hard for you again. I won't cling to you or want anything more. I just want to be your sister. Forever. His body froze against mine. Then, slowly, his hand began rubbing circles on my back. We stayed like that for what felt like hours. The tension between us dissolving like morning fog. Ethan brought over a bowl of congee. Eat something. He tied my hair into a loose ponytail and grabbed his jacket. I'll get your favorite egg tarts. When I'm back, we need to talk. I nodded, studying him. Something about his demeanor had shifted, resolute. Like he'd made a life-altering decision. But Ethan never returned. Instead, my phone buzzed with a message from Grace. Emily, please, come to the school rooftop alone. I'm begging you. I sprinted out the door, dread clawing at my throat. Why was this happening again? The monk's warning echoed in my skull, what's destined cannot be changed. Had my second chance meant nothing? Yet this message differed from last time. No taunts about secret rendezvous with Ethan. Just raw desperation. Grace stood on the edge. tears streaming, mirroring that fateful day. "What the hell are you doing?" I screamed. "Is jumping really the only option?" She collapsed to her knees. "Don't you get it? Ryan's men attacked us that night. They filmed everything. I'm trapped." Rage surged through me. "Why didn't you tell the police? You're the victim here. It won't matter." Her scream bordered on hysteria. I tried fighting back. "But Ryan's family owns this city. They threatened my mom, my siblings. He was a demon, toying with us all along. He wanted to destroy Ethan, which was why he targeted you. I failed you, even after you and your brother showed me such kindness. Stay away from me. If you don't touch me, there'll be no evidence linking you. Ethan cares for you so much, he'd move heaven and earth to protect you. But if I disobey Ryan, my family won't survive. Maybe my death could turn this into a major scandal. I'm begging you, after I'm gone, please watch over my family. Consider our brief month of friendship." I didn't let her finish before grabbing her collar and yanking her down. My own roar echoed in my ears. "Do you have any idea what your death would do to my brother? He's loved you his entire life." That's when I realized I was sobbing uncontrollably. Grace stared at me in shock. The velvet pouch slipped from my pocket, hitting the floor with a soft thud. It lay there innocently, reminding me of the warmth I'd felt when first clutching it. If I'm the catastrophe destined to ruin Ethan's life, then without me, he'd find happiness, right? So that's what it meant. I finally understood. All we needed was to create an uproar. I turned and sprinted toward the rooftop edge. At first, it felt like floating. Then came the crushing weight of gravity. I chose the abyss. Thus I fell into darkness. Boom, a deafening impact split the night, followed by a piercing scream. Across the street from campus, Ethan nearly dropped his precious cargo at the sudden noise, the last box of egg tarts. Every other shop had closed, forcing him to hunt down this new bakery near school. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Someone jumped. A girl student. Ethan glanced toward campus, his chest tightening inexplicably at the memory of that terrible crash. Against his usual nature, he found himself drawn toward the commotion. Some inner voice insisted, "You need to see this." He found Grace collapsed on the pavement, screaming Emily's name through tears. Why would she be calling for Emily? Dread coiled in his gut as he shoved through the gathering crowd. The broken figure on the ground, he'd recognize her anywhere. His sister should have been safely waiting at home for these damn egg tarts. Not lying here, shattered. Unrecognizable. Grace confessed everything between sobs. She kept saying she'd killed Emily. The injury I had before was deliberately framed to blame Emily. That day, she came to me furious. I intentionally placed the cup near her, and when she accidentally knocked it over, I pretended to be pushed down by her, cutting my arm. She actually believed it. She even apologized to me, even though she was the only one who ever treated me as a friend. Ethan stared blankly at me, taking a long time to find his voice. "What did she say at the end?" "She said if I died, you'd remember me forever." Ethan felt like someone was choking him, suffocating every breath. He finally realized the one who killed his sister was himself. Ethan clearly remembered the day he made Emily burn her diary. She stood in the courtyard, tears streaming down her face as she burned the pages. His heart ached violently. He had Mary call Emily back inside, yet found himself uncontrollably walking toward the ashes. One diary remained partially unburned. He stomped out the flames. The delicate handwriting inside, he taught her every stroke himself. Would brother think I'm disgusting if he knew I love him? In that moment, he felt nothing mattered anymore. He shouldn't blame her. He had no right to blame Emily. In this world, no matter what mistakes Emily made, his sins would always be greater. He was just too terrified to take that step. If one day Emily stopped loving him, if she saw the vast, wonderful world beyond, when other men made her realize her brother was insignificant, they wouldn't even remain siblings. That single step would destroy him completely. That night, he even twistedly thought he wished they were blood-related. At least then they'd share an indelible bond. He was so afraid. So when he realized Emily hated Grace, for the first time, he didn't distance himself from someone his sister disliked. He thought making Emily give up would be better. She'd grow up eventually. Leave him someday. But when Emily lay unconscious for days, then woke up crying and apologizing, calling herself a monster, he wanted to scream. He was the monster. 1,000 times worse. Worse still. He was a coward. Letting Emily alone bear the guilt they both shared. Ethan decided he'd tell Emily, "We'll just go somewhere nobody knows us." But that moment's hesitation cost him his sister forever. When Ethan regained awareness, he'd already finished handling Emily's funeral arrangements. The small urn contained his greatest love. She'd been so vibrant, so full of life, how could she endure being confined in this tiny space? His senses seemed to return belatedly, every nerve screaming her absence. Countless blades seemed to sprout from his internal organs. He retched violently, the sharp edges slicing through his esophagus and throat. Yet nothing came up. Days bled into weeks as he remained imprisoned in Emily's bedroom, the last place on earth still clinging to her fading scent. Time lost meaning. His life had stopped making sense the day his sister died. In the adjacent room, Robert and Mary exchanged worried glances. All those therapists were useless. Mary fretted, twisting her apron. "This looks like soul sickness. They say that church up north works miracles. I never expected to wake again." In the dim studio apartment, an acceptance letter glowed pale under bare bulbs. Emily. Printed in crisp letters. The universe had played its cruel joke, reincarnating me into this stranger's body. This Emily looked nothing like me, parentless. Raised in foster care. Her social connections thinner than hospital broth. A glitch in the system. 3,000 miles from everything I'd ever known. My trembling fingers found the silk pouch, now cold and ordinary against my palm. 3 years passed like pages torn from a calendar. Occasionally I'd search Ethan's name, the media circus after my fall. Ryan's empire crumbling. Grace emerging unscathed. Good. The world righted itself. Living without my brother carved hollow spaces at first, until medical school's relentless pace filled every crevice. Funny how clarity returns with distance. Around Ethan, I'd turn into a lovesick fool. But alone? My IQ bounced back like elastic. Lucas grinned across the lecture hall, sunlight catching his stupidly perfect hair. Maybe dating would cauterize this wound. Not just geographically, I needed to excise Ethan from my psyche. He thought me dead anyway. Time to let Emily live. But I really tried my best. Yet it still didn't work. Still couldn't. Except for Ethan. I couldn't accept anyone else. I even started doubting if I was truly straight. Maybe I was just Ethan's sexual. That night, I went drinking with Lucas to clear things up. He got wasted and spilled his guts. Let me confess, I'm in love with my brother. You have no idea how redemptive those words felt when he said them. Lucas kept drinking, vomiting, and sobbing. I thought you were pretty and interesting. Wanted to see if you could turn me straight. Turns out, nope. Just nope. I'll only ever love him. He was literally speaking my lines. This bizarre connection made us besties. Later, he agonized about confessing to his brother. My advice? Don't. One wrong move and you'll end up like me, a brotherless wreck. Lucas chickened out too, spending 3 college years trying to cure himself. Fat chance. Today, he bounced over. Hey, heard about the 2 exchange students in our department? Welcome party tonight. Rumor says they're hot. Let's go. Entering the bar's VIP room, Dread pulled in my stomach. The class monitor whispered dramatically, "These guys are big deals. Started businesses freshman year, crazy successful. Net worth over 9 figures now. Here for some project collab. Great. Maybe we'll score connections." I deadpanned. Lucas scoffed beside me. Whatever. My brother ran family companies in college too. My heart pounded harder. When the door opened, party poppers exploded. I looked up and froze. There he stood, the man's features sharpening under neon lights. His heavy black coat seemed cut from midnight itself, repelling all emotion. The star-shaped earring glinted on his left lobe. Ethan. Why Ethan? The room spun. Welcome Ethan and Grace. The monitor cheered. Only then I noticed Grace trailing behind him, looking thoroughly bored. Everyone started speculating. They really are a handsome guy and a beautiful girl. Don't you think they might be a couple? Lucas poked me nearby. But honestly, I still think he's not as good-looking as my brother. I immediately shot him a glare. Bullshit. My brother's obviously better-looking. Lucas looked baffled by my sudden outburst. Did you wake up on the wrong side of the bed? I clamped my hand over his mouth, desperately trying to make myself invisible. Though initially, this body looked different from my original one. Over 3 years it's grown increasingly similar. Thank God I wore a mask today. Ethan only glanced at me when he first entered, then never looked this way again. Definitely didn't recognize me. The classmates suggested playing truth or dare. Ethan naturally became the center of attention, being ridiculously good-looking and today's main guest of honor. Like Lucas. Everyone burned with curiosity about that particular question. Finally someone seized their chance to ask Ethan, "Do you have a girlfriend?" Yes. His calm answer extinguished many hopeful hearts in the room. Yet some persisted. Next round someone else asked, "Is she in this room right now?" All eyes locked onto Ethan. My heart involuntarily leaped into my throat. When Ethan looked up, I couldn't tell if it was my imagination. His gaze seemed to drift slightly toward our direction. Yes. That settled it completely. Since Ethan just arrived and his girlfriend was already present, it could only mean Grace. Okay. I admit, even knowing the answer, my heart still ached. Thinking back, maybe dying young wasn't so bad after all. If I'd stayed alive watching Ethan get married and have children, I probably would have gone mad. During the latter half, when everyone seemed deflated, a guy sitting next to Ethan noticed something peculiar. Pointing at his earring, he asked, "That's an interesting piece, looks like it has moving sand inside?" For the first time, genuine emotion flickered across Ethan's face. He touched the star-shaped earring, smiling tenderly. "Yes. This contains my sister's ashes." The room plunged into stunned silence. Our monitor sobered up instantly, hastily changing the subject. But some drunk idiot blurted out, "Why a star? Does it mean something special?" This time, I definitely felt Ethan's gaze resting squarely on me. "Because," he said quietly, "her name was Emily." My back was drenched in sweat. All my classmates turned to look at me. What a coincidence, there's another Emily in our class too. That's wild. It's not exactly a common name. Emily. Why are you still wearing a mask today? My heart felt like it was about to leap out of my throat. Ethan kept staring at me intently, determined not to miss a single flicker of emotion on my face. I fake coughed, deliberately lowering my voice. "Is that so? Haha. What a coincidence. I grew up in an orphanage myself. Always wanted an older brother." My words came out rushed. "Pollen allergies today. Does Ethan's sister get them too?" Lucas looked at me suspiciously. "Since when do you have pollen allergies?" "Since when?" I wanted to rip his mouth off. No. Ethan was still watching me, but the flickering lights in the room made his expression unreadable. "But she's an excellent liar." I was drenched in cold sweat. Thankfully, No one pressed further. Back in my dorm, the adrenaline still hadn't worn off. Ethan must have noticed me because of the shared name. For the next few days, I avoided both him and Grace like the plague, maintaining my pollen allergy persona. The mask might as well have been welded to my face. Exchange students lived differently anyway. Ethan had already moved on with his life. He'd forget about some girl who happened to share his sister's name soon enough. Or so I thought. Ethan was everywhere. When I went to the cafeteria, he sat at the adjacent table. When I grabbed coffee, he bought 2 cups right beside me. Annoying. The second cup was obviously for Grace. On the one rare day he wasn't around, I dragged Lucas to the cafe across campus for a proper meal. Our food had just arrived when the door chimed. Lucas was inhaling his pasta like a starved raccoon when he noticed me frozen mid-bite. "Why aren't you eating? You have it." His grin turned wicked. "Don't mind if I do," he proceeded to steal my omelette rice and strawberry parfait. A tall shadow fell across our table. A fresh parfait and warm egg tarts materialized before me. "Eat." I looked up at Ethan, sudden tears prickling my eyes. Gritting my teeth, I grabbed Lucas' arm in a death grip. "Thanks. But if I want something, my boyfriend will buy it for me." The air froze. Lucas lifted his sauce-smeared face from the plate. Though clearly confused, my ride or die didn't miss a beat. In an instant, Lucas understood my thoughts and assertively wrapped his arm around my shoulders, summoning the most stereotypically macho tone he could muster. He said to Ethan, "Dude, my baby's on a diet right now. Not a good time." Me, Ethan, well, I had to give him credit for trying. Ethan left the cafe without another word. I stared blankly at the parfait and egg tarts until his silhouette disappeared around the corner. Lucas grew serious, sensing something amiss. "Has he been harassing you?" I shook my head, unsure how to explain this mess. "Don't ask. Just pretend to be my boyfriend for a while." Lucas became my overprotective shadow, accompanying me to every class. Naturally, this didn't improve his opinion of Ethan. But after that day, Ethan vanished from my life like morning fog. Maybe he finally understood I wasn't his sister. His real sister would have never broken his heart. One evening, Lucas bounded over with conspiratorial glee. "Nuclear grade tea. Remember that other exchange student who came with Ethan?" I nodded. "Grace?" Bingo! The campus confession board's exploding. They're exposing her to timing 3 guys already. Serves Ethan right for harassing you while his own girlfriend. I shot up from my chair, startling him. "What did you say?" Grace cheated on Ethan. The rest faded into white noise. Before I knew it, I was sprinting across campus. She had afternoon lectures. Thunder rumbled as I reached the empty classroom. Grace froze when she saw me. I yanked down my mask, revealing features that mirrored hers by 40%. Her pupils dilated, trembling fingers clutching textbooks. "What are you afraid of?" I advanced as she retreated until her back hit the wall. My fist twisted in her collar. "Didn't he treat you well? Didn't you get everything you wanted?" Tears streamed down her petrified face. "Scared now? You think I'll let this go even in death? Why would you do this to him? Answer me!" Lightning flashed outside. Only then did I notice she wasn't looking at me. Her shaking finger pointed behind me. A deafening thunderclap shook the windows. I whipped my head around. The momentary flash of light was enough. I saw Ethan's face. "This should do it," Grace said, breaking free from my weakened grip before scrambling out the door like a startled animal. My heart stopped, then pounded violently against my ribs. He'd known all along. "Brother," the word slipped out before I could bite my tongue. What did it matter now? Ethan was already striding toward me with that terrifying calmness, his eyes burning with something unhinged. Pathetic. 2 lifetimes. 2 different bodies. No blood relation, yet he still reduced me to this trembling mess. My legs refused to obey, cementing me in place as he closed the distance. "You think I wouldn't recognize you?" Ethan's voice cracked like summer lightning. "The way you twist your hair when lying, 3 times during that fake boyfriend charade with Lucas. How you scrunch your nose during thunderstorms. Just like tonight." His smile turned brittle. "Should I kneel? Let you punch me? Or perhaps you'd prefer that new collar you bought?" His fingers grazed my neck as I backed into cold glass. Nowhere left to run. "I've never loved anyone else." The raw desperation in his whisper shocked me. "This world holds nothing closer than us. So please," his forehead pressed against mine, "don't throw me away again." In that suspended moment, one thought crystallized: the devil wears a Wilson family crest and smells like bergamot. Is Ethan, has he lost his mind? He was always the untouchable moon in the sky, the deity enshrined on sacred altars. Why would he say such things? My mind couldn't process it fast enough. Yet I instinctively sensed something off about his words. The collar. Right. When did I ever buy a collar? Something exploded in my mind. All coherent thoughts shattered into fragments. I stared at Ethan in horror. I'd only purchased one in my past life. Never used it. Before my brother died. Before our final argument. Ethan suddenly gripped my throat, silencing me with his lips, a kiss both vicious and tender. As if devouring yet cherishing. Rain pattered softly. I suddenly realized, so this was the truth. I wasn't the only one standing in this downpour, soaked through with mud and regrets. Ethan was just as tainted as I was. A sliver of fractured light edged the window. When I woke, something heavy weighed on me. Opening my eyes revealed Ethan's face inches from mine. My phone showed 9 a.m. I bolted upright, jostling him awake. He lazily lifted one eyelid, arms snaking out to drag me back against the mattress. "Sleep a bit longer." My face flushed seeing the teeth marks circling his forearm. I have class." The moment his grip loosened, I fled to the bathroom, his sigh trailing behind me. "Never knew you to be this studious before." In the bathroom mirror, mottled bruises stared back. I'd need high collars and long sleeves today. Thank God it's early spring, people would think I'm deranged otherwise. Not that Ethan fared better. His back probably clawed to ribbons. When I finally emerged, Ethan stood fully dressed by the sink, finishing his grooming. Heat crept up my neck again. "You're coming too? Don't you have morning free?" He glanced up from tying his shoes. "Impressive you memorized my schedule so well." I guiltily scratched my nose. Truth was, I'd memorized his classes to avoid him last semester. The early spring morning was bitterly cold. For a disorienting moment, I couldn't tell which lifetime I was living. Emily was fine. And I was fine too. We could still go to school together as if time hadn't moved forward at all. I pressed closer to Ethan, and he simply wrapped me inside his coat. It's been ages since I walked to school with my brother. Ethan's lips curved into a faint smile, though his voice sounded muffled. Ugh. My brother's turned into a complete grump lately. Though I guess I'm mostly to blame for that. Last night when I was half asleep from exhaustion, I still heard him ask, "What if I wake up and you're gone again?" I was hugging his waist, about to comfort him, when an angry shout suddenly came from behind us. Next thing I knew, some strong force yanked me away. Both Ethan and I froze. Turning around, we saw Lucas. He pulled me behind him like a mother hen protecting her chick, glaring furiously at my brother. "Ethan Wilson, I'm warning you, stay away from my girlfriend or you'll regret it." Oh crap. I'd completely forgotten about him. Ethan blinked in confusion before his brows knitted together, his face cycling through disbelief, anger, and wounded betrayal all at once. Trying to give me a heart attack? My head shook so violently it could have been a rattle drum as I frantically pushed Lucas aside and scrambled back to Ethan. Let me introduce, this is, my brother. Lucas's eyes bulged, darting between us like ping-pong balls. But, your sister isn't. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. It's complicated. I'll explain everything later. Ethan grabbed my hand like he was staking territory. Allow me to clarify, I used to be her brother. Now I'm her boyfriend. Eventually I'll be her husband. The verbal grenade left Lucas petrified. First came confusion, then shock, finally morphing into intense envy. With a strangled squeak, he bolted down the street. Ethan massaged his temples. This is the company you keep when I'm gone? I wanted to defend Lucas, but couldn't think of any solid arguments. He's usually more normal. My brother snorted. Oh, now you're taking other men's side? The vinegar in his tone could have pickled cucumbers. But I get it, I used to be just as bad. I mimed zipping my lips shut. These days, Ethan and I were practically glued together. He'd rented a small apartment near campus, dragging me over 4 nutritional supplements whenever free. Apron on. He'd whip up all my favorite dishes. Gotta admit, that campaign declaration of his had some truth to it. No other guy could compare to my brother. As for Grace Lee, she'd already gone back home. The incident of my fall back then affected Grace deeply. But Ethan signed the forgiveness document. Grace missed her college entrance exams that year but got into a decent school the following year. She texted me apologizing, admitting she shouldn't have deceived me initially. Yet my apparent death seemed to haunt her so much that she couldn't face me. Not that it mattered, her presence had haunted me just as badly in my past life. I explained everything to Lucas. He found it bizarre but reluctantly accepted it. Then came endless sarcasm. Oh, wonderful. Congratulations, he'd say. During break, we returned home. Seeing my own grave felt surreal. My tombstone stood beside Sophia and Mom's. The wind howled past my ears. I asked Ethan how he'd found me. He said he developed severe hallucinations later, often lingering in my room, seeing me approach him. But whenever he tried to hold me, he'd snap back to reality clutching my clothes. Robert and Mary intervened, taking him to that temple north of the city. There, he glimpsed our previous lives. I listened silently, eyes stinging, and buried myself in Ethan's embrace. I'm sorry, I whispered. You deserved an apology. I was terrified my presence would get you expelled again. Or worse, he pressed a finger to my lips. Without you, living feels no different from dying. Didn't you think the same? His hand brushed my forehead soothingly. The abbot insisted you were alive. So I kept searching. Guess being a decent person pays off, no 50 years of penance needed like me. He chuckled. Once at the temple, he met Daniel seeking dream interpretation. Daniel claimed his stepbrother kept invading his nightmares with weird antics. When shown a group photo, there I stood beside Daniel. I'd recognize you anywhere, Ethan said. I snorted. You and Daniel could start a victim support group. Boundless conversation material. But since Ethan now knew about our past, you won't see me as some wrinkled old lady. Right? I leaped to cover his eyes. Forget that image. He caught my wrists, finally smiling genuinely. I won't forget. But you haven't seen me as a gray-haired old man yet. Tears spilled over. He kissed them away, gaze tender. This time, you'll grow old enough to witness me turning gray too.